Okay, guys, look at this old tomato here I was going to throw out. I'll probably just throw it in the compost pile. It's been in the back of the fridge for for a while anyway. And just noticed it, and I thought I'd make this video. Now, I wanted to talk about basically a way to deal with Marauders, And I uploaded a video. It was called Marauders, Looters, and Gangs Throwing Shit at the Fan. You need to check that video out. It's a real eye opener. About some guys, just a bunch of bottom of the barrel type guys with military training, a little bit of military training, and they would attack preppers basically for their supplies, and they used some pretty rough stuff in there. I mean, they used like pesticide and stuff like that against people, but it's a real eye opener. Check that out. Now this goes back to a couple times. I'll get this comment every so often. I remember I had this exchange back and forth with this guy about like how to deal with the situation if somebody comes around like Marauders, and I told him my idea, and then I recommended that video to a friend of mine, and he was like, well, what would you do? And I gave him the idea that I'm about to give you. So basically the scenario would be like on The Walking Dead, which I used to really like. The first couple episodes, first couple seasons. Now I just watch it with the wife. But like a Negan style situation where a bunch of Marauders come up and they basically take what they want, and you're outnumbered, outgunned, and there's not much you can do. Well, I had a couple ideas that led me up to my idea. First, I remember watching Doomsday Preppers, and this guy, he lived here in Texas, and he had an idea of, he said he poisoned a certain amount of his food. In case, I'm sure the idea was, if Marauders came by, it was him and his buddy and their wives, and I think combined they had 5 or 6 kids. Obviously, they would not be able to stand up to a group, even a dozen or so armed guys with training. So I'm sure his idea was to run, and eventually the bad guys would eat the food and die, and they got their compound back. And I thought it was a good idea, but poor execution. He said, and you can take him at his word or not, however, either way I'll break it down, it's a bad idea. But he said only he knew what was poison and what was not. Right? Nothing was marked, and it wasn't written down anywhere. So, obviously, if you take him at his word, if something happens to him, then the family would have no idea what was poison and what was not. They'd basically play Russian roulette every time they open a new container of food. And eventually, well, they're going to get the wrong one. And the other thing, let's say you don't take him at his word and you assume that he told his partner and their wives knew and the kids knew, maybe not. I don't know, maybe they didn't tell the kids because the kids probably blab. But assuming him and his buddy knew, and he said they weren't marked. Let's say the Marauders go there and move stuff around, right? Reorganize things. Well, if they're unmarked and you have them in a certain place, well then, hey, guess what? It's switched up. Then he'd be playing Russian roulette with that food. So you have to leave it there or risk your family, because eventually you'd eat something poisoned. So again, good idea, poor execution. So my idea goes back to, you look at all the outbreaks, like E. coli outbreaks that were happening years ago. Remember, like eggs were contaminated, spinach was contaminated several times, tomatoes, lettuce, all kinds of, a couple types of greens were contaminated with E. coli. And that's when you have the FDA and the Department of Agriculture. There's people trying to keep that from happening, and it still happens, right? And they don't mean it to happen, but it happens. So imagine a grid down time, right? So goes to my idea. Now, to break this down, for those of you who've seen The Martian, that liberal dickhead Damon, I forget his character, the astronaut he plays, is stuck on Mars, and he's growing potatoes, and he uses his own waste as fertilizer, right, to grow, and urine basically to grow these potatoes. And he survives off the MREs and potatoes. Now, I guess because there's no magnetosphere on Mars, maybe he could use the astronauts' waste too. Probably the radiation killed all the pathogens and stuff, because he used the other astronauts' waste too. But the way I believe this works, and you can look it up for yourself, this is the way I think it works out, is that they do use human waste for fertilizer. However, it is processed, you kill all the pathogens, and it's called biosolids after the process is completed, right? Then you can use it as fertilizer. Because from my understanding, a person could probably, and don't try it, eat produce grown with their own waste, right? But you could not eat the produce grown with somebody else's waste, because the pathogens from, the produce would absorb pathogens. Like this tomato could absorb up some pathogens and stuff like that, all kinds of crap in there that would contaminate the food, right? But it's from your body, so you'd probably be okay. But somebody else would not be okay. So, the idea would be kind of like an outhouse or something. You have a shed, take the bottom out, dig a hole, and you would do your business in the ground, put some dirt. Somebody else comes to do their business, put some dirt, and then you would probably make a small garden. Maybe it depends on where you live. Close to the house, away from the house. It depends on your situation. But you'd make it known, understood, nobody touches that produce. That would be basically a weapon. Live out in the country or something like that, you could have a garden on the exterior out, somewhere in the compound that everybody knew do not touch. So you have Marauders come by, and they pick all these nice tomatoes and peppers and stuff, cucumbers, from produce that's been growing, and using the whole family's waste, maybe some other people that join up your group, all your waste have been used as fertilizer. The produce would absorb some of that. Whoever eats it, well, they're in big trouble. So you have Marauders that come by. They're going to see those, take them, they eat them. Well, goodbye, Marauders. So, anyway, that was my idea on how to deal with, some group like that, right? Anyway, y'all guys let me know what you think about that. That was my solution. Total shit the fan scenario. You're on your own. There's no help. Grid down. You've got guys that, Marauders kill and take. If you don't do what they say, well, that would be my solution. That's what I try to do. Obviously, you wouldn't have your family fight against a group of Marauders. You're going to get them killed, right? Because, that's just the way it is. Anyway, my thoughts on that. You guys let me know what you think. Y'all have a good one. I'm out.